Hi everyone, welcome. I just wanted to do another video. I do apologize. I've had a lot of videos out there for you, but it seems like when they did that upgrade or changing of things, all the videos were lost. So I apologize. So I am at least doing this one more time for to help you with the case study project for our course. So this is the week 3. I just want to give you an overview about the type of database you'll create and actually walk you through the process of creating this and these tables that you would need for the case study. So we already agreed through the discussions and the online material resources that you need 4 tables. So you need one for patients, one for doctors, one for procedures, and then you'd have what is known as a bridge table or a junction table. And this table is what brings all 3 tables together. And that would be known as the appointment table because you have a patient that has an appointment for a procedure, and there's a particular doctor going to do that procedure. So that's how this case study is. You do not need to elaborate anymore at this point. Just get the basics down. Once you get that down and understand what's going on with your tables, you can add later. But right now, let's just get the basics. Okay, so I have here on the screen, as you see, is that there's just the beginning of an Access database. So I have a table here. Now, when you are working with tables in Access, you want to always go into Design View. Design View will first cause you, make you, force you to give it a name so that it makes sense as to what it is you're creating. So we're going to first do a table for patients. Okay, so this is the patients table. Click OK. And now when you are in Design View, automatically you will see all the location and places that you can have for your fields. I apologize for the delay here, but I have probably more than I need open at this time on my computer. See if I can get rid of, here we go. So this is now your Design View for a patient table. Now we have the typical field here, ID. It automatically comes up with the ID field started for you because it knows you need a primary key field. It's typically an ID field, but you don't want to leave this as an ID field because you want to be more descriptive of what you have and what it is your table is about. So we're going to call this patient ID, okay? You do want to leave it as auto number because auto number will automatically add or go to the next number, and that as primary key fields must be unique for each record. So auto number will start with 1 for the first record, 2 for the next record, and so forth. And that is a unique number. Typically, you will always let the computer generate a key field for you. Sometimes you have information that you're collecting in the data that's unique, but that you can use as a key field. But some things may be of private nature. So like, every person has a social security number, but it's private. So that's not something you'd have as a key field because that's not something you want people entering in to find your record. So you typically will let the, like when you're a customer, you have a customer ID. When you're an employee, you have an employee ID. When you're a patient, you have a patient ID and so forth. So same thing here. So we have a patient ID and we'll just do some basic things. So you have a first name, and that's going to be short text. You're going to have last name. I just have a habit of keeping my words, variable names together. First name, I could put a space, but because I also have a programming background, some programming languages don't allow you to have a space in between the words when it comes to referencing them or as variables. Sometimes they put an underscore in there, but we'll just keep it to this for this purpose only because we are not programming in this course. We're creating databases. Okay, so address, city, state, zip. Now, these are all short text, which is the way they should be. Even though zip code may be a number, you'd only make something a number if you're going to do calculations with it. If you're not going to do a calculation, then you would not create it as a number. So the only thing now we look at these fields. Now we have first name is a short text, but field size on the bottom here you see is 255. That's too large. Okay, we want to change that. First name, we'll put maybe 10. We don't need to be exact with a first name, but now when it comes to a last name, we want to make sure we get every single character in a last name because that's very identifying. Everybody is like referenced by their last name as being a unique name to the most extent, but that one you want to make sure you get all of it. So industry standards will do a 30. I don't know how many last names are larger than 30. There may be, but we don't have to be concerned with that at this time. Addresses as well. This would be a street address. So we'll put 50, city. We definitely want all of the city names, so we can do 50. I don't know how large city names are, or depending on what you are going to be having for your patient area. But field size for a state should be 2, because that you would want the postal code abbreviation. And for a zip code, you can have 5 or 9, depending on your postal code, but we'll just do 5 just for simplicity's sake. So there you go. So that's how you create your patient table. Now you would repeat this process as well now for your, you want to now create another table, and the next table is just going to be a doctor table. Okay, so you're going to create and repeat this process. So you'd have it in design view. You're going to call it the doctor table. I'm going to be very similar because a doctor is a person as well. And we're going to change the ID to doctor ID. And the same thing, we're going to have a first name, last name, address, city, state, and zip. Oops. And zip code. Okay. Same thing. Change your numbers here for the particular sizes because you don't need 255. So you don't want to take extra space. Space is a premium. Storage space is a premium. So you always try to make sure that you keep it less than up to at least close to what you may want. I'm not exactly sure all my numbers that I used the last time around, but I think it's around, I do 50s down the road. Maybe I should make it more unique. I know state was 2, and then zip code was 5. I remember. Yeah, it's usually first name is usually around 10 or 15. Now, addresses, cities are typically between sometimes 25 times some 30, sometimes 50, depending. But the last 2, you can determine yourself how you want to do this. But there we go. Now we have a doctor table. So next one we need to make is now a procedure table. Now you have to consider this as a unique entity. We were talking about entities in a discussion forum, so hopefully this is making more sense to you as to what an entity is. It is just something that has related information. We already know a doctor is a type of a person, a patient is a type of a person, and it has particular information, characteristic of that entity, right? Doctors have names and addresses and so forth. Now you can add more details to those tables as you seem fit. I'm just trying to do the basics right now just to get you an idea of how this is done. So this one is now going to be the procedure table. Now again, procedures, they are too an entity, and they as well have an ID field, right? So procedure ID. Now I'm just going to put a procedure type in here. I'm not going into any details right now at this time, so I'll just put it as a procedure type, and we're going to leave it at 255. There might be a long description to this type, but that's sufficient for right now. Okay, because we're not creating this for a hospital or anything of that sort. We are just practicing, so that'll be fine. Okay, now the next one we want to do is create a appointment table. Now this is the table that's unique in the sense that it's the one that's going to bring all these other tables together. Even though a patient might have a doctor and doctors do procedures, we're only going to link them this way as by way of an appointment. Okay, we're not going to do all these other links, even though in the real world it is. We're keeping it simple. We're keeping it basic because we're just learning how to do this. So we do want to have an appointment ID, right? So you have an appointment ID, and you're going to have this link with these other tables because you need to know who the doctor is. You need to know who the patient is. And in order to do that, we want to use the ID fields from these previous tables. But we don't make them auto number here because our doctor has already an ID field. We're just going to type in the number here. Our patient has already an ID field. We're just going to type it in here. So this is very important. Don't do auto number here. These are not new keys. Okay, they've already been created and they already exist in another table as the primary key. We are using it in this table as a foreign key. So that's maybe how you can distinguish between a primary key and a foreign key. It's a foreign key here because it's already had a value assigned and we have to get that value from another table. Okay, so however, since key fields are auto numbers, that means this data type has to be a number. It's a number. not an auto number. Because remember, the number was already generated automatically when it was entered into the doctor table and the patient table. So very important that you don't include that here as an auto number. Then you will have different, then you will not be able to link your tables properly. Now, you may also want to put date and, time. How's that? Oops. Wait, I'm sorry. I got too many things open here. Okay, let's start over here. Okay, so I want to put date. Okay, appointment. There we go. Date. Okay. And then now we're going to use a date field, right? Because we have a date field. And the reason why we want to use a date field is because it will allow you and double check to make sure you don't put 13 as a month or you don't put 50 as a day, okay? And then we'll also put an appointment time, okay? And that also is going to be date and time, but we have to distinguish now. Our time is going to be a little different. So we click on format. Format is how you specify which one you have here. So this is going to be a time. So we want what time version of a time do we want here? We're going to do just medium time, hour and minutes, okay? So that's how we set this up as a time, and that's the format it's going to have. Now our date as well. We have a date here, and we go to the property list. The property list is what shows you all the things you can set for your fields. Everything starts with default settings for you, but maybe you want to make them more unique or add some additional information, which you may have to do going forward, but for our purposes, we're going to keep it simple, okay? So here we are. We have our 4 tables. Now you can start entering information into these tables. So we're going to have a doctor. Oops. Record here at the same time. Okay, so now I have everything here, so I need to save everything. So I need to save all my tables. This is when somebody was asking about these tabs. What am I supposed to do? You want to just save them. So go to your appointment table. Yes, I want to save the table. And then I want to save. Just save all your tables as you're going through. Okay, procedure is saved. Doctor is saved. My computer's running a little slow because I have WebEx recording at the same time here. And I have Access open. So, yeah, a lot of things open. So here's how that goes. Okay, so everything should be saved. Now, you want to enter in relationships. How do you relate them? Okay, we're going to go into the database tools. Click on relationships. And it'll ask you, okay, what are the tables that you want to relate on? All of them, really. So we're going to just kind of highlight all of them and click add. And there we go. So now we have our 4 tables here ready to link. Okay, now we already know how they should be linked, right? Because we already included them. So appointment table is the table that links all of these together. Okay, so we want to first link from the doctor ID to this doctor ID. That's how we're going to link here. So doctor ID from the doctor's table and the doctor ID for the appointment table. And we do want to enforce referential integrity. What that means is if it's changed in one table, if I change it in the doctor's table, it's going to say, hey, don't forget, we're linked in the appointment table, so if you're going to change it in one, you have to change it in the other one. Otherwise, it's going to be pointing to the wrong doctor. And then you also want to cascade updates. You don't want to cascade deletes because you want to make sure before you delete something that is done properly. You don't want it to automatically start deleting things, but you can automatically have it create things. Okay, so there we go. That's how. Here we go. Another thing you need to know is in order to use anything, you set up relationships, you need to close all your tables. Okay, so maybe some of you are telling me that I got this error message. I didn't know what that meant. That's what that means. Before you can do anything in Access, you always have to save it. It reminds you that you need to save things. So there we go, back to our doctor. I'm sorry, we only have 1 minute left on this recording, so that's why I'm going quickly. But here, hopefully you can see my steps, and that's what you will emulate. So now the patient goes to the patient ID. Make sure it says patient ID and patient ID when this comes up. And there you go. And that's a create. And then the procedure also will go, I forgot to add the procedure in here. See, I made a mistake, didn't I? So by making a mistake, I have to first delete everything. You can't make any changes when there's relationships. Okay, you also have to first figure that out. So I need to now go back to my appointment table and put it in design view and add now. I want to add it right in here, insert a row, and I want to add procedure ID. That's one thing that I forgot, right? Because we don't know what kind of procedure the person is doing. Now we have to. And again, I have to change it to number. So this is saved. Yes, hopefully it's saved. Now let's go back to our database tools. Oh, but again, if I'm going to do anything with relationships, I have to close things, right? So let's close this one. And there's our relationships. Now we're going to go for. Now, if you notice that we have them here. So Dr. ID goes to the appointment table, and it links enforce referential cascade, create. This one will also go to this table, patient ID, and make sure these are the same. Okay, so that, because just I'm dragging and clicking, I could be dragging and pointing to the wrong thing. And that's how you would have. So there you go. So that's how you create these relationships. And remember, when you're entering information in the appointment table, you always have to take an existing doctor ID that exists in the doctor table. It's not going to be created for you. It's only created in the doctor table, patient table, and procedure table. But when you want to add to your appointment table, you have to specify the doctor ID, specify the actual patient ID, and the procedure ID in order to make your appointment. So I hope this helps. Again, I'm going to try to redo more of these videos as we go along, and I apologize that they were erased. I don't know what happened. I'm trying to track them down with tech support. Maybe they are somewhere, and I can bring them back out. But until then, hope this helped. Have a great day.